Morning continues without interruption. Louise remains seated for a moment after the call. The phone rests where she placed it. Silent now, its presence already fading into the ordinary arrangement of the room. Nothing looks different. The table, the glass of water, the soft movement of curtains, all continue as they were. Yet the stillness feels slightly more attentive. She stands without urgency. Floorboards respond with familiar sounds. Light shifts across the room as clouds pass somewhere far above. Outside, a car passes along the distant road. The sound arrives softly, then disappears, leaving the air unchanged. Louise gathers a few things without thinking about them. Keys, a bag near the chair, papers folded once and left unread. Each action feels guided less by decision than by acceptance, as though the next moments have already arranged themselves. She pauses near the doorway. Behind her, the house remains calm, holding the same gentle silence that greeted the day. Ahead, light stretches across the fields beneath a wide, pale sky. For a moment, she simply stands between the two spaces. Wind moves through the cornfields again, repeating its endless pattern, rising, falling, returning without effort. Louise steps forward. The door closes softly behind her, not marking an ending, only a change in direction. Outside, the day waits without pressure, and the path ahead feels quiet enough to follow. The morning air feels cooler outside. Light spreads gently across the fields, soft and even, carrying the quiet warmth of a day still beginning. The house stands behind Louise without calling attention to itself, already returning to stillness. Gravel shifts beneath her steps. The sound is small but clear, grounding each movement in the present moment. Wind moves through tall grass nearby, blending with distant engines starting far beyond the fields. The world wakes gradually. Windows open in neighboring houses. A dog barks once, then silence returns. Ordinary sounds appear one by one, each fading naturally before the next arrives. Louise walks toward the road. Her pace remains unhurried. The path feels familiar, shaped by repetition rather than decision. Morning light follows beside her, long shadows moving quietly across the ground. Clouds drift slowly overhead, their shadows passing across the fields before releasing the light again. A vehicle approaches in the distance. At first it is only sound, tires humming softly against pavement, steady and predictable, carrying no urgency. Louise waits near the roadside. Dust lifts lightly and settles again. The air remains calm. The vehicle slows. Its presence feels practical, expected. A door opens. Movement pauses briefly between departure and arrival, held within the quiet rhythm of morning. Louise steps forward. No words are exchanged yet. The moment remains simple. Movement meeting movement without explanation. She enters the vehicle. The door closes softly. Through the window, the landscape begins to move, familiar shapes drifting past without resistance. The house grows smaller, not lost, only distant. Morning continues unchanged, even as direction quietly shifts, and the journey begins without announcing where it will lead. The road unfolds steadily ahead. Morning light settles across the landscape in wide, quiet bands, illuminating fields that stretch without boundary. Nothing along the horizon asks for attention. Distance feels soft, shaped more by atmosphere than by space. The vehicle moves at an even pace. Sound becomes gentle and continuous. Tires against pavement, air passing along the windows, the steady rhythm of motion repeating without variation. Inside, the world feels suspended between departure and arrival. Fields pass slowly, fences appear and disappear. Small trees stand alone in open land, their shadows shifting as clouds drift overhead. Each detail exists briefly, then yields to the next without resistance. Louise watches without focusing on anything in particular. Shapes glide past the window, familiar enough to feel calm, distant enough to remain untouched by meaning. A town appears briefly. Low buildings gather near the road. A gas station stands nearly empty. A single figure crosses a parking lot slowly before the vehicle continues on without slowing. Soon, open land returns. Wind moves through long grasses and quiet waves that travel across the fields before dissolving again into stillness. Inside the vehicle, time softens. Sound and motion merge into a steady pattern, predictable enough to quiet attention. Even thought seems to slow, matching the rhythm of the road. Louise rests her gaze on the horizon. There is nothing to interpret there, only distance, patient and unchanged. The road continues forward without needing explanation. Cloud shadows drift across the windshield. Light brightens, dims, then brightens again, each change gradual enough to feel natural. Far ahead, the road disappears into brightness. Not hidden, only beyond immediate sight. And the quiet rhythm of travel continues, steady enough to feel almost like rest. The vehicles move more slowly now. The road narrows as it leaves the highway behind, guiding them between wide fields untouched by urgency. Gravel replaces pavement, rising softly beneath the tires. Dust lifts and settles again. Temporary fences stretch along the roadside. Beyond them, figures move calmly, their motions measured and unhurried. No one runs. A checkpoint approaches. Vehicles pause one at a time. Doors open gently. Papers are exchanged in quiet voices shaped by routine rather than concern. The car comes to a stop, engine humming, air moving faintly. A distant radio dissolves into indistinct sound. The barrier lifts. The car moves forward again. Inside the perimeter, movement grows quieter still. Equipment stands arranged with careful intention. Cables along the ground, temporary structures rising lightly against the horizon. Everything appears temporary. People move between vehicles carrying small tasks, conversations beginning and ending without urgency. The world behaves normally, only more attentively. Vehicles park in long rows. Engines fall silent one by one. Footsteps replace motion as arrival settles into waiting. Louise steps out of the car. Air feels cooler here. Open fields surround her beneath a wide, patient sky. A low vibration passes through the distance, so faint it could belong to wind. So steady it feels intentional. A few heads turn, then stillness returns. Louise stands for a moment longer than necessary, listening, not for sound itself, but for the space around it. Preparation continues quietly. She begins to walk. Gravel shifts beneath her steps as the encampment stretches ahead, orderly and temporary. Somewhere beyond sight, something vast shares the same sky. The wind moves once more across the fields, unchanged, patient. The air feels different here, not colder, not warmer, only heavier, as though the space itself holds a quiet awareness. Louise walks slowly between temporary structures. Voices remain low around her. Equipment hums softly. Movement continues with careful restraint, each action measured, each sound contained within the wide openness of the fields. No one looks hurried. Attention moves upward only briefly before returning to small tasks. Hands adjusting cables, footsteps crossing gravel, radios murmuring without urgency. The sky remains unchanged. Clouds drift slowly across pale blue, indifferent to the gathering below. Light spreads evenly across vehicles and tents, softening every edge. Then the vibration returns, low, distant, felt more than heard. It moves through the air without direction, passing gently across the encampment, before fading again into stillness. Conversations pause, not fully, only enough to notice. A few heads lift toward the horizon. Others remain focused on routine, as though uncertainty is easier to hold when nothing appears urgent. Louise stops walking. Wind brushes lightly across her face. The sound of the fields continues behind everything else, steady and familiar. The vibration comes again, slightly clearer now, not loud, not threatening, only present. Somewhere beyond sight, something immense exists within the same morning sky. No shape reveals itself, only presence. Louise breathes slowly. Around her, movement resumes. Footsteps return. Voices continue in careful tones, folding the moment gently back into ordinary time. The world does not change, it simply makes room. And the quiet deepens as though waiting without expectation. Louise continues walking. Gravel shifts softly beneath her steps, each sound clear within the open space of the encampment. People move nearby carrying equipment, speaking in calm, measured tones that never rise above conversation. The world remains organized. Radios murmur quietly. Screens glow inside temporary shelters. Work continues with careful attention, guided by routine rather than urgency. Louise notices little of it directly. Her awareness rests elsewhere, following a subtle change difficult to name. The air feels different, not heavy, only present, as though space itself has drawn slightly closer. Sound softens at the edges, distance widening without moving anything farther away. A vehicle door closes somewhere behind her. The sound fades quickly into wind crossing the fields beyond the perimeter. Nothing demands urgency. Conversation continues gently around her, steady enough to reassure. Louise pauses. She looks toward the horizon. Nothing waits there beyond pale sky and drifting cloud. Still, the space feels shared. The vibration returns, low, distant, felt more than heard. It moves through air and ground alike, leaving no clear beginning or end. Nearby, researchers adjust equipment in quiet coordination. Numbers are spoken softly. A screen flickers once, then steadies. The ordinary persists, yet perception shifts. Time feels wider, moments resting beside one another instead of moving forward. Louise exhales slowly. Wind brushes across her face, grounding her, even as awareness drifts towards something unseen. No revelation follows, only presence, gentle enough not to disturb, steady enough to remain. Preparation continues around her. People walk, voices speak, equipment hums. Louise begins walking again. Each step feels both ordinary and newly noticed, as though she is learning the rhythm of the place simply by moving within it. Above, clouds drift unchanged across the sky, and the shared silence deepens, patient and calm. Movement across the encampment settles into a quieter rhythm. Vehicles rest in long rows beneath the pale morning sky, engines silent. Conversations continue in low voices, practical and calm, yet each exchange ends sooner than expected, leaving space for silence to return. Louise walks between temporary structures. Canvas walls shift gently in the wind. Cables lie neatly across the ground, connecting machines that hum with steady restraint. Preparation continues without urgency, guided by routine rather than instruction. People move with quiet focus. A technician adjusts a screen and pauses before stepping back. Nearby, two figures stop speaking at the same moment, their attention drifting outward for reasons neither acknowledges. The air feels unchanged. Wind moves through the open fields beyond the perimeter, folding grass into slow waves that rise and disappear again. The sound blends with distant machinery until natural and human rhythms share the same pattern. Louise pauses near the edge of the field. Cloud shadows pass across the ground, dimming the light before releasing it again. Several faces lift briefly toward the sky, then return to their work without comment. No alarm follows. Still, movement subtly slows. Steps shorten. Hands hesitate before continuing familiar tasks. A radio crackles somewhere nearby, calm procedural words dissolving into static. For a moment, the field seems to listen. Then motion resumes naturally. Footsteps, quiet voices, equipment humming steadily. Nothing appears different. Yet the silence feels shared now, settled gently among them, as though everyone senses the same distant question without needing to speak it aloud. Above, the sky remains wide and patient, waiting. The stillness does not feel empty. It feels occupied, not by presence itself, but by expectation. Louise stands at the edge of the field, watching movement continue around her. People walk between vehicles. Voices rise and fade. Nothing appears interrupted. Yet something has changed in the way the moment holds together. Sound seems slightly deeper, as though space itself has widened. The wind moves through the grass with the same steady rhythm, but each motion lingers a fraction longer before fading. She listens without searching for anything specific. Awareness settles gently, expanding rather than focusing. Small details separate themselves from the background. Footsteps against gravel, fabric shifting in the breeze, the distant hum of generators blending into a single continuous tone. Nearby, a clipboard slips from someone's hand. The sound startles no one. It lands softly, ordinary, quickly forgotten. Still, Louise notices how silence returns. More slowly afterward. Clouds drift across the sun. Light dims, then brightens again, but the transition feels unusually deliberate, as though the sky itself is moving with intention rather than chance. A faint vibration passes through the air, so subtle it could belong to distant machinery, so brief it leaves no clear memory of having occurred. No one reacts. Conversations continue. Equipment hums steadily. The world maintains its calm surface. Louise exhales. For the first time, the quiet feels aware of her in return, not observing, not approaching, only existing within the same moment. She does not look upward, not yet. Instead, she watches the horizon, where distance softens into light. The feeling carries no fear, only recognition without understanding. Around her, the encampment continues its careful routines, unaware that perception itself has begun to shift, and the morning holds its breath, gently, patiently, as if waiting for something to be noticed. The morning continues without interruption. People move quietly between vehicles, conversations flowing in low and measured tones. Equipment hums steadily, blending with wind crossing the open fields. Nothing demands attention. Then a new sound enters the distance. At first, it is indistinguishable from the air itself, a faint, rhythmic pulse carried across the landscape. It arrives slowly, merging with existing sounds rather than replacing them. Louise hears it before she recognizes it. A repetition beneath the wind, soft, mechanical, patient. No one reacts immediately. The encampment continues its routines. Papers shift in hands. Someone laughs briefly nearby. A door closes gently somewhere behind her. The sound grows clearer. Rotors turning far away, steady enough to feel inevitable, yet distant enough to remain calm. Dust lifts lightly along the road as vehicles pass, though none move quickly. Louise remains where she stands. She does not search for the source. Instead, she notices how the air changes, vibrations settling into the ground, subtle enough to be felt more than heard. A few heads turn along the perimeter, not upward, only toward the horizon. Movement appears far across the fields, small against the brightness of morning. Shapes approach slowly, suspended between sky and earth, but belonging fully to neither yet. The sound deepens gently, wind folds around it, softening its edges. Grass bends and rises again in quiet waves as the rhythm passes overhead at a distance. Still nothing feels urgent. People continue walking. Voices remain calm. The world adjusts without resistance. Louise exhales slowly. The approaching motion does not disturb the stillness. It becomes part of it, another layer added to the morning. Dust settles again, light remains soft across the fields, and somewhere beyond immediate sight, arrival begins not with revelation, but with movement. Dust settles again, light rests quietly across the fields. The sky remains above her, unasked.